who is the director of the AWA Project and one of the Arab Young Water Professionals 2024. Andrea, welcome very much to the show. And we are looking forward to hearing your inspirational story. I'll leave it up to you.
Thank you so much. Really excited about this opportunity. Thank you to Water in Communications. Hello, everyone. Hola a todo el mundo. Saying my hellos in Spanish as well. I'm very pleased to join you right now. I'm in Lima, Peru, and I'm one of the Arab young professionals who will be joining the World Water Week in the next couple of days. Very excited to be here. I'm going to start sharing my screen because I've prepared a small presentation for all of you today. As Goral has already introduced, I'm an Arab young water professional, also have an NGO called the AWA Project, and I'm here to have a very informal conversation with all of you. I'm just a young professional who is just joining the water world and is so excited to continue to learn from all of you here, but also have an opportunity to share a little bit about my journey, my story, and the importance of global collaboration as we gear up for World Water Week. So as you can see, the title of today's presentation is Rethinking Our Relationship with Water. And I want you and everyone to start thinking from right now, what is your relationship with water today? Whether it is through your work, whether it is like a personal interest, but this is a question.
Sorry, Andrea, just one thing before you go on. Can you speak a little bit louder, please?
Oh, yes, of course.
The sound is just a little bit soft, yes.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, that's all right. The sound is just
like
soft.
This. Okay, so as I was saying, today's presentation title is Rethinking Our Relationship with Water. And this is a question that has been very important for me as I kind of try to emerge myself in the water sector. And I encourage you to already start thinking about it. Whether it is through, for example, your professional career, you've already had experience in the water sector, but it can also be from a very personal side and a personal story, which is what I hope to share with you today. So I said that this is a very informal conversation where I hope to share a little bit about myself, and I look forward also to learning from you today. So before we start, obviously, I want to make a quick introduction of who I am. My name is Andrea Caceres. I was born in Mexico, Mexico City, but I grew up and I lived for 12 years in Lima, Peru, with my Peruvian side of the family. I always mention where I'm from because my identity has been essential for everything that I do. And you'll see that reflected in my work throughout the presentation, but also of how I reflect on certain experiences that have shaped my water story. I'm 23 years old. I've had the opportunity to study in Canada and in Spain. In Canada, I did my undergraduate studies at the University of Toronto, where I studied human geography and migration studies. And I just finished my master's degrees in international development at IE University. Just as a disclaimer, as you may know, I have not studied anything technical about water, but I hope to be a different story to showcase that there's space for so many different fields and perspectives when it comes to water. And in regards to my work, I've worked mostly when it comes to indigenous rights in the world of natural resources. Water has been key, but water has been the main focus within my advocacy work when it comes to my engagement with different nonprofit organizations, but most importantly, my NGO, which I'll share a little bit about. But now that you have some information about me, because this is mostly information, I want to share with you my water story. And as I was preparing this presentation, I was thinking how I could structure it or what was the story that I wanted to share with everyone. And I've been able to identify 3 pillars that have been very important for me in the creation of my water story. And you'll see these 3 pillars reflected again along my story. It's incredibly important, as I share, to have very present in everything that I do, where I come from. Being a Latin American woman, being from Mexico, being from Peru, has ignited lots of my passions towards global collaboration, but also international development with a focus in water. And also I've been inspired by so many Latin American women who are at the forefront of water challenges and also in the creation of solutions for many of within the water crisis that we face today. Also, my story has been shaped by my experience as an immigrant, from very simple aspects or objective aspects that obviously moving from different countries, you have different proximities to different water bodies. For example, growing up in Lima, Peru, I was very close to the sea, but when I went to study to Canada, to Toronto, I didn't have the sea nearby, but I had a lake. And I realized through this global movement that my relationship with water shifted continuously depending on how water presented in my life. It's in these moments that I also realized that water was part of my nostalgia, my memory, my formations of community. So it's very important also to understand my aspects. And finally, my water story has been very important when it comes to my ideal as a leader and as a young water change maker, which I hope to continue contribute through this space for the World Water Week as we emerge into these amazing conversations for the next weeks. But now that you kind of understand a little bit my pillars, I want to share with you where actually my water story began. And my water story began with my grandfather. I always say, I already mentioned, no, I was born in Mexico, moved to Peru, and I always say that my passion was created or shaped by generations of water knowledge passed down from my grandfather towards me. My grandfather was the first person that I remember having a conversation about the water crisis around 20 years ago, reminding myself that it was not only important for him water because of his professional career, being an industrial engineer and having the opportunity to work in the National Agency of Water in Peru, but also understanding the duality of water. I remember this vivid conversation that I had with him, where he was not only telling me the importance of water as like the phrase that we always hear, which is water is life, but also the duality and ambiguity of water. Water can also mean disaster for many communities through natural disasters. It can also mean public health related issues. For example, when water is contaminated and waterborne diseases come into a community, water can cause different trauma responses. And it's important that we understand water through its duality. The existence of water, and today in the water crisis, the lack of water that we see in many communities. So my story actually begins with him. He taught me respect. He taught me the importance of protection of water. But most importantly, he questioned as well. He questioned me. What is my own relationship with water? What is my connection with water? And how do I hope to build it as I move through my professional and also personal development? After having these important conversations with him, where I become aware of the many water issues, I decided to step a little bit outside my family and start looking around my community, what was happening. As I said, growing in Peru, it's important and very relevant to mention that as of 2023, 10% of Peruvians still don't have access to drinking water, and 23% don't have access to a sewage system. This is around 3.3 million of Peruvians that don't have access to public drinking water system. This is when I started to better understand how these inequalities faced in water were presented and manifested differently for different actors and people in our community, especially in Latin America, where women and as well around the world, where women faced not only the burden of carrying the domestic work and paid domestic work at home, but that water was essential for being able to tackle those. And in many communities that don't have access to water, women were at the forefront of these challenges. But as I understood kind of the challenges and the negative aspects of the water crisis that we live today, I also encounter amazing women leaders who better help me understand and better help me shape myself as a water change maker and professional on how we can be part of the global collaboration and action around water. This is Susana Romani, one of the first community leaders that I worked with in one of the first projects for the AWA Project, which I'll talk in a little bit, but she has been instrumental for my inspiration on the role of Latin American women. So this is two of the pillars that come from me very importantly, the water change maker and a Latina woman. I seen women like Susana Romani has allowed me to not only learn from different generations of women as well, but also believe in myself that different generations and women can be also part of change in the water sector. And here I just show other videos, for example, working with Susana in the construction of the installation of a water system in her community. And also mentioning another leader that I've been able to recently work with. Her name is Lilia Java. She's from the Cocama indigenous community from the Amazon in Colombia. She has been instrumental in the implementation of fishery agreements between 22 indigenous communities in the Amazonian lakes in Colombia. Incredibly important, understanding again the duality of water, that water is also about biodiversity, water is also about nature conservation, and water is also about women empowerment. Lilia has been one of the first women in her community to be in a leadership position and implement projects towards the conservation of water, which has been for me also instrumental to go again, look at my community, and then give me the strength to also start working on something that I wanted to contribute, which lead me to the creation of my own organization, which is the AWA Project, which I'll spend a little bit more time talking about who we are, our vision and mission, and some projects that we've been able to implement in the past few years. The AWA Project is a youth-led organization founded by 5 students from the University of Toronto, and now has expanded towards a global network of volunteers, of water change makers, how I call them, who want to promote a world of equality between people and water. And we do that by seeking to connect young people from all over the world so that they can share their own experiences and perspectives so that could go beyond borders. I think the main purpose of this organization is to move away from dominant narratives of water that we have all over the water sector, which are very technical. Having very technical conversations are essential. No, water is a very complicated topic, but also it is important that we create spaces for those young professionals that might not yet have the capacity to be in those conversations, but still want to be part of change when it comes to water. And this is a space for the AWA Project. We really want to transcend conversations from just, for example, the extractive nature of having to get water from safe and drinkable water from one place to another, or utilizing water in industry. Very important topics, but we also want to create space for other types of conversations. Again, going to the initial questions, questioning what is our relationship with water, understanding how different young people have been shaped around water, how different communities utilize water through cultures, through spirituality, through language, how have we historically built communities around water, and how have we built communities around water, friendships, relationships, and we hope to have those maybe more uncomfortable and maybe more abstract conversations to contribute to the world. So within the AWA Project, we've been able to implement projects, and we focus on 2 main areas. One main area is capacity building and implementation of projects, where we've had the opportunity to work with communities directly to implement projects to increase accessibility. But we also have projects that surround these new conversations that we want to create, which is advocacy and creating of consciousness. So to share a little bit about our projects, the AWA Project started implementing folk harvesting technology in a community in the south of the capital of Peru, in Lima, working alongside Susana Romani, one of the leaders that I already mentioned. We were able, this project happened in the middle of the pandemic, where many of public policies implemented around the world assumed or needed continuous access to water to, for example, for people to practice different wash methods, sanitation, and making sure that the COVID-19 was not spread around different people, and that we could mitigate anything that was going around the world. In this case, the community didn't have a continuous access to water. They were not connected to the national grid, and because of the geographical conditions, it was very hard to get access towards it. So with the community, we ideated a project that will allow them to have autonomy, a project that utilized local resources that could be easily managed, and that knowledge in the construction could stay in the community so that they could continue to take care of the project for over a year and a half that the project stayed in the community. So we installed 15 fog catchers or fog harvesting technology, condensates water particles in fog, and creating a new source of water, a complementary source of water in rural communities. We were able to receive funding from many institutions and great organizations, providing all donations to the implementation of the projects, but as well to the identified leaders and community who participated in the construction. And we were able to collect more than 80 liters a day of water that was utilized for agricultural purposes in the community. In this project, I also talk about the duality, because it was incredibly important to implement different rituals for the Pachamama. In many indigenous and campesino communities in Latin America, the Mother Earth is incredibly important within their cosmovision and way of living within these communities. So for us to be able to construct in the community, it was important to respect as well and to put at the forefront the cultural beliefs and for the community. So we did different rituals to ask for the Pachamama to allow us to construct this infrastructure. And a way to give back for the Pachamama was also utilizing the water for agriculture, as it was a way to reconnect again. Water was not only water in this community. Water was a way to reconnect with their spirituality. Water was a way to reconnect with the land, and water was a way to build community. So this was an amazing first project where we learned a lot, and it's kind of inspired our next few projects in order to kind of continue to transcend that knowledge to other young people. We also have a podcast in which we're having a space for these different conversations around water. So if anyone is interested to be part of the podcast, please feel free to reach out. In this podcast, we talk about young professionals in the water sector. We talk about how water is incredibly relevant for music, how young people are at the forefront of coral restoration. We also have an understanding of public policies when it comes to indigenous rights and access to water, and much more than is coming. So really encourage everyone to listen. And also, if you want to be part of this conversation, let us know. And finally, one of the projects that we're working right now is how can we transfer as an organization all of the knowledge that we have to other young water change makers who want to create an impact in their community. So we're creating all of these toolkits and booklets that will be accompanied by workshops so that young people can learn how to identify problems in their communities, water-related problems. They can design a project or program that they can implement and actually support them in the implementation. This is very new, and if you follow us in all of our social medias and as well with stay in contact with me, I'll be more than happy to give you more information on how you can be part of this project. But again, as part of the AWA project, I've also had a great opportunity to participate in different types of international conferences, many conferences from the UN, such as the Youth Assembly, MENA Climate Week. I've also been working with the World Bank this past year to also continue to share and think about the role of young professionals in the water sector, talking about, for example, the role of young women, to as well providing spaces for indigenous perspectives in water management as well in Latin America. So again, I bring those identities that I mentioned earlier, my identity as a Latina woman when it comes to the role of young women, and also my region as an immigrant not living in Latin America. Incredibly important to still give space to indigenous perspectives from my regions to be at the forefront of conversation in these spaces. But now that I've shared a little bit about me, I mean, obviously, I always like to share my team, because without anyone here, we would not been able to do anything that we've been doing for the past 4 years. And again, say thank you to all of you who I know some are connected for the amazing work that we have done. But I mean, you see here in the screen a group of young professionals. And as we go up into the World Water Week, for me, the most relevant thing is to also talk about what are the challenges that we face today. These are challenges that I kind of have continued and started to learn in the past 6 months, but I want to bring them here, not maybe for me to share a lot of information, but also to start reflecting of yourself. How do you find yourself as a young water professional in the sector? I've witnessed and I've heard about the shortage of young water professionals. I mean, just reading an article the other day, less than 2.8% of attendees in many international conferences are young professionals. So being here as an Arab young water professional becomes relevant for me to also start talking about the barriers that we face. There's not only a shortage, but also lack of comprehensive strategies to retain and attract new talent. This is new information as well for me, so I'm bringing it to here for you to also share in the chat. Is this something that you faced? What are those kind of barriers when it comes to retaining talent? How I've seen it most drastically has been when it comes to gender disparity, a male-dominated industry, obviously creating new spaces for women, but we should not only hire women, we should make sure that these spaces are also built for diversity of perspective, built for diversity of experiences. And something that I'm really passionate about is kind of not only creating spaces for technical conversations about water, which are very important, I do encourage them, but also allowing spaces for indigenous and non-traditional knowledge and how that has been essential for many, many years and ancestrally for the management of water and conversations. And these become extremely relevant as I join everyone next week in the World Water Week. So what I hope to get from World Water Week, very grateful as already shared, I have been selected as one of the Arab Young Water Professionals. And I think my goal for my presence in this conference is I've reduced it to listen, learn, and bridge opportunities. I believe as a water professional, we have strong opinions as water young professionals, but we also acknowledge that there's so much more to learn. And I'm here to absorb with a lot of humility what other people have been doing, understand what are the things that I want to continue to do. I understand what are the things that I don't want to continue to do. And I think when it comes to international development and our role in development around the world, it's important that we also have those uncomfortable conversations of things that have gone wrong. And I feel that I can also have that space to share things that maybe I want to learn and contribute as I move forward. Again, giving space for women, indigenous peoples, minority groups to be part of this space of decision making is what I hope to contribute within this week. But overall, I know I'm up with time, and I just want to leave everyone with a message. As young professionals, I've many times failed to put myself subjected to the imposter syndrome. Why am I here? So much less knowledge than a lot of people here. But I think that I come here again with 3 attributes, skills, and strength that I hope that everyone can take with them as we come to the Water World Week. First, listening will be your best skill. We have so much knowledge to share, but also let's give others the space to share their knowledge as well, especially those voices that have not had the opportunity yet to do so. Empathy will be your best attribute. It's important that as we listen to other people from all around the world, we acknowledge that maybe not all of your perspectives and experiences may align with different contexts. So utilize empathy to understand that. And courage to create change will be your best strength. And courage is everything that I hope to give to young professionals as they join the global water conversation. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share a little bit about my story, share a little bit about myself. And I'm looking forward to the Q&A session or just continue the conversation with everyone here. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you very, very much. And thank you for the various emails and forms how to connect with you. Maybe also if you can write them down in the chat so that we know how to get in touch, not least for that podcast. That sounded very interesting for everyone who's interested in being part of the podcast. I would like to ask you, I mentioned before, while introducing you, and you mentioned as well, the Arab Young Water Professional 2024. And I mean, we do have quite a lot of young water professionals in the program. If any of them would like to become an Arab Young Water Professional 2025, how does it work? What is it? What is the program? Tell us.
So thank you so much, Gorel, and I think this is a great opportunity. As a young water professional, I'm constantly looking for these new opportunities that will allow me to get access to these global forums. So as I started to look around World Water Week and how I could contribute, I found out about Arab Young Water Professionals program. This is a program that allows and funds young professionals and gives them the opportunity to attend fully funded in terms of attendance for the conference. Young professionals do have to take care of their accommodation and flights to get to the conference, but they give us a space to participate in different workshops. So you have the opportunity, I think every year they release a form where you have to respond to different questions, very similar to other applications to other conferences, but they help you to reflect on why do you want to attend the conference and what is the story that you hope to share as a young water professional. So it is a fairly simple form. I think the most important thing is that you know why you want to be there and you can communicate that to others. And now I just, after being accepted, you're connected to a great network of young professionals from all over the world, which is amazing. And they will give us different opportunities across the conference to participate in workshops, and to also right now, for example, participating in watering communications workshops and being able to share our stories. But most importantly, also joining the ARUP team in the World Water Conference, get to know their team over there and how we can contribute together. What I'm most excited is that when you get young people together, definitely something is gonna get out of there. So I'm super looking forward to get to know them in person.
And thank you. And speaking of young people and young professionals, you were talking about the shortage of young professionals in the water sector. You being a young water professional, how do you think that we can get more young people, the young generation, interested in water and get them into the sector? What are your tips?
Thank you. I mean, that's a question that I still continue to ask myself. I think that within the water sector, I already mentioned, I think the technical aspect of it, and for many years, it has been a very male dominated and requires lots of years of experience. Because there's many things that we need to rethink about innovation and how young people can gain that technical aspect or be involved from younger generations to rethink everything that we're doing. But I hope to talk more about, for example, the gender aspect of it. How can we get young women also involved in this space? And I found that civil society, usually where there's more participation of women in comparison to other technical sectors, due to many reasons in life, it's a great space for a young woman to start to get to know the sector from a different perspective. I mean, my organization is mostly women dominated. We're trying to get also more boys and other genders and more men and other genders into the organization. But I believe by integrating different, not only voices, other perspective, you'll be able to actually gain more younger perspective. I think because water, I mean, I see my grandfather with years of technical experience, industrial engineering. These are right now fields that are male dominated. Obviously, more women are getting into the sector, but again, I think it's more than just creating the space in terms of number of women or number of different genders, but how can we create a space where women don't feel that they cannot share their experiences, where we see representation at upper levels of decision making. I mean, I'm still trying to figure it out, but I do believe that civil society and engaging different voices, indigenous organizations, you'll see even more representation of young people as well there. And by creating avenues for their participation, we can kind of jump in different ways in which we get into the water sector.
Thank you. Thank you. Dexter has a question for you. Based on what you've seen, could you tell us more about technical over Indigenous and non-Western knowledge, please?
Amazing. Yes, I think this is a great question. And I'll share a little bit about a conversation that I had 2 weeks ago with Lilia Java, which is the Indigenous leader that I shared a little bit. She has been from a very young age, very eager in protecting, for example, different water bodies in the Amazon community. And what she has faced is that within the Amazonian region in Latin America, levels of education are incredibly low, and access to education, it's incredibly difficult, whether it is because of the physical challenges of living in the Amazon. No, only way of transportation for many communities is the Amazon River, and as well centralization of many governments in Latin America, where they have to get out of their indigenous communities to be able to access education. She felt a continuous barrier that her voice through ancestral indigenous knowledge was not being heard when it comes to decision-making around, for example, lake conservations. And it has taken a lot for her to showcase others in order to take her knowledge and experience into consideration. So I think her is an example on how we need to take into consideration the context and inequalities that exist today in the world. Even though people don't have access to education and might not have the academic background, they do have knowledge around water. We all have knowledge around water through our relationship. And indigenous and ancestral knowledge, it's essential so that we understand, for example, biodiversity, we understand how we can complement technical knowledge. I don't think it is about replacing one with another, but how can we bridge spaces so that these can come together. And I do believe that in the World Water Week, we'll be able to see that. There's many many workshops and events that are focused on Indigenous perspectives, and also an important event that is about how to become an Indigenous ally. If you're not an Indigenous person, if you're not a part of an Indigenous community, you can further understand how can you bridge together those knowledge to create change in communities. At least this is how I've seen it. This is what I've heard. There's many other perspectives around it, but I hope to also bring, how can we bring together other people, other conversations? How can we validate other experience apart from the technical, which is really important, again, not going over it, but how can we complement with other experiences?
Thank you. And Cecilia has also posted a link to the Indigenous focus of World Water Week for any of you, one of you who are interested. Please look at that link. Just one more thing before you go. I mean, you were talking about having participated in quite a few conferences. You're coming to World Water Week. And this is, of course, a very difficult question, but how do we make sure that the outcomes, the discussions, don't stay there in the conferences, that it's more than a talk shop? How do we make sure that whatever comes out of the discussions is actually implemented?
Oof, oh, that's such a difficult question, but I love to bring it to the table. And I feel as a young professional, it's important for me to also say, I don't know. And I think that comes as well with the just talking. I think I can talk about and blurb here on how we can solve the world, but I think it's better to show myself real. I've been parts of so many conversations, and even for me, it's so hard to then transcend that into action. But I see one way that I see other young professionals also highlighting in their social media, training conversations. Conversations are amazing. Young water professionals are there. We need support. I think that we need connection intergenerationally with those people that are already in decision making and creating change, and how that can we actually pass down that to action. We can talk a lot, but if we do not create avenues of funding, if we do not create avenues of mentorship, if we do not create avenues in which we can actually work together and spaces to work together, it's really hard to get out there from the conference. I think every conference we get out with this proud sense of, wow, no, I feel I've changed the world with many conversations. But I think then we fall short if we do not continue to create those inclusive channels to pass down knowledge, collaborate, and most importantly, I think what we need today is also funding. I mean, we know that the Sustainable Development Goals is lacking so much funding for the achievement of many goals, but specifically SDG 6, which is water and sanitation. So I think a combination of all of that is hopefully what I see in the future, but also, again, kind of being humble of actually not knowing and getting out there and learn of what other people are doing and how can I implement that in my context.
Thank you very much. So more funding and continuous collaboration, and we will get the ball rolling. Thank you, Andrea, very much for joining us here at the Water and Communications. And please stay on if you would like to learn more about World Water Week, because we are now going to focus on the week. Before we continue with our next speaker, I would like to remind you all that you can register to the online World Water Week for free. And Cecile will post the link in the chat box. You can all register there. And journalists must register for media accreditation, but I'm also sure if you have any questions about this, our next speaker will be able to answer those questions. Now, let me welcome Andreas Karlsson, Communications Director at SIWI. Welcome to Water and Communications.
Thank you very much.
And we have had a few sessions already in the workshop program about this year's theme, Bridging Borders, Water for a Peaceful and Sustainable Future. But what do you think are some of the most important aspects of this quite broad, overarching theme that I just mentioned?
Yes, so it is a very broad. It's a deliberately broad and overarching theme. So when we say bridging borders, the most immediate thing that springs to mind would, of course, be geographical borders. That is what it is sort of immediately interpreted as being. And that is an important aspect. Collaboration across geographical borders on water has proven to be a critical component in peace and security, or ensuring peace and security. So that is indeed very important part of this week. But having said that, there are other borders to be bridged as well. Some of these would be, I mean, you heard Andrea talk about some of them already, and they excite me as well. Generational borders, between cultures, between different parts of the water cycle. In terms of generations, World Water Week is an event with, by comparison, a young audience. And I think that's a great opportunity in that. We have all the long-standing experience, the faces that you've seen at these conferences for decades, but we also have a very young audience, willing and demanding a seat at the table as well. And I think that's super important and very exciting. And there are many parts of the week where this will be reflected. And there are the junior rapporteurs, which will be working throughout the week to report back afterwards with their perspective. You will hear them do that in the closing ceremony once we get that far. And then, which was also mentioned here, the sort of cultural borders, and making sure that, again, everyone do have a part in the process, in the decision-making process. And there is, as we heard, a fairly large, we saw a focus on Indigenous peoples' water perspectives and knowledge already last year. It's growing this year. There are many super exciting sessions around that. So that would be another thing that I would suggest that you look out for. So yes, bridging borders, it can really be a lot of different things.
So many borders to cross.
Many borders to be bridged, yes, indeed.
To be bridged, yes.
Yeah.
So this year's World Water Week takes place for 1.5 years now after the UN 2023 Water Conference, where we saw the Water Action Agenda being one of the key outcomes. What actions have you actually seen? A little bit like spinning on what I asked Andrea. What has become of the action agenda? And do you think that water has become more a prioritized subject in the global discussion after UN 2023 Water Conference?
Yes and no. I mean, it has indeed been talked about more, I would say. It's on the agenda on big conferences, perhaps most notably on sort of climate conferences such as COP, where water was indeed on the table. So I think many in the sort of water world feel that, yes, there is a certain momentum, but we would also see things move faster. These are very slow moving processes, and it can be frustrating at times. So yes, there is a greater focus, I feel, in terms of water and water related issues. The Water Action Agenda is super important, and World Water Week is actually part of that. SIWI we have committed to provide or offer rather World Water Week as an arena for water issues to be discussed, and we intend to keep doing that. It's really our offer to the world, if you will. So yeah, greater focus, but we could see more of it.
Right, and thank you. And as this program, Water in Communications, I need to ask, what challenges do you see when communicating the value of water?
How long time do you have?
Well,
no, but I think everyone who's listening have a feeling of the challenges. Personally, speaking from the com side of SIWI, I find that our challenges are very often to make sense of the complexities. I feel that we have taken many of the sort of initial steps. There's a deceivingly simple aspect of water in that it's, yes, we say that we need water. Water is important for everyone, and we are made up out of water, etc. But going beyond that and explaining the mechanisms behind this, and from our side, from SIWI side, explaining that water is more than the actual liquid. It's more than the hardware, so the pumps and the pipes that make sure that we get water. It's also what's behind that. It's the steering mechanisms. It's the governance of water. It's the decision-making that happens for that water to be available to us. And all of that is what we work with. That is what we try to communicate. But these are also very complex, often processes that are not visible, which makes it even more difficult. And I'm sure that there are other organizations represented in the audience here that share that it is an enormous complexity where we sometimes feel that, well, is it really? So yeah, that would be our challenge.
Thank you. Moving on now, I think, to the World Water Week, more from a practical terms.
Sure.
It's still a hybrid conference, meaning that you can participate online or you can participate on site in Stockholm. And if you are participating online, must you still register?
Yes.
And then using the link that we have just posted in the chat, you can then register for an online pass, right?
You can register for an online pass. And as I said before, we think of World Water Week as our offer to the world, an opportunity to come together, to discuss water issues, learn from each other, and sort of put actions together and take that forward. We think of ourselves as a sort of part of the water agenda during the year, where there are many other conferences, but building on what has been and taking that forward. So we do offer free online participation. That is part of that. We see World Water Week as a global public good, if you will. And we are happy to have had almost every single country in the world represented last year, out of the 15,000 people that joined us. Joining on site, well, may not be for free because there are some practicalities around that and cost that comes with it, but that opportunity is, of course, also there. And many have chosen to be on site in Stockholm, but online is a good and valuable opportunity, I feel. So you're all welcome to register.
So we can meet online or on site. And one of the persons who will come to Stockholm is this year's Stockholm Water Prize laureate, Professor Taikan Oki. And I excuse myself if I don't pronounce it correctly. But Taikan Oki, he will be presented the award on Wednesday during World Water Week.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about this year's laureate?
Yeah, he's an hydrologist. So maybe just quick background, as I'm sure many of you know, the Stockholm Water Prize is an award. It's awarded in March on World Water Day. So we've known for a couple of months now that Taikan Oki will receive the prize, but the actual award ceremony, and he will receive it from His Majesty the King, the Swedish King, at World Water Week. So that will happen on Tuesday, I think.
Oh, Tuesday, sorry.
Yeah, no, maybe no, sorry, my mistake. That's Stockholm Uni Water Prize, which we may come to in a minute. But yeah, so he's a hydrologist, and I guess it would be a bit presumptuous of me to try and describe in detail what he's been doing. He's far more clever than I am in terms of water and water research. But so essentially, he's contributed to the many models that we have for estimating water's impact on things such as climate change, where he has introduced new components, primarily human impact, which has made these models much more precise and more usable. He's also done some significant work on the concept of virtual water, which I'm sure many of you are aware of. There are others before him who have done that, and in fact also won the Stockholm Water Prize for it, so Professor Anthony Allen. And it relates also to the work of SIWI's now late, unfortunately, Professor Malin Falkenmark, who was our senior advisor for decades, who's done work on green water, which is water captured in the moisture in the soil. So there is a strong link to previous laureates, other distinguished water experts, and I've only met him online so far. He seems to be a lovely man, and we look very much forward to welcoming him to Stockholm.
And thank you. And are there any sessions where we can listen to him online or on site?
Yes, absolutely. He will pop up here and there, but the one session which is sort of dedicated to Professor Oki and his work will be the Meet the Laureate session, which is on Wednesday morning. It is Wednesday, sorry for me confusing the days earlier, which is in the morning. I see that it's being posted there now.
Great. And
so that would be the main one, of course. And perhaps also mention, we do get questions about it. The actual award ceremony is then happening at the banquet, which is not a public session, but that's happening in the evening that same day. But to learn more about Professor Oki's work and hear other related to it and what it has meant for the world, that would be the Meet the Laureate seminar.
On Wednesday.
And
then you mentioned some other exciting prizes like the Stockholm Junior Water Prize.
Yes.
And that's on Tuesday.
That is on Tuesday.
And correct. What can you tell us about the junior? I mean, we still don't know who will be awarded the prize, right?
No. So Stockholm Junior Water Prize is a prize. It's a competition, really. So there are a number of countries. This year it's 30 countries who participate. They have national competitions, and out of that we have a contribution from each country, which will participate in the final in Stockholm. So the Stockholm Junior Water Prize happens, well, in a way, throughout the week, because there are posters being displayed with the various projects. So these are young water scientists, if you will. That's very much what they are. Super clever, far more clever than I am, again, with various projects on water. And they will compete, and there will be a jury to find the best project in their opinion. And there are a few side prizes. There's a People's Choice Award as well. So everyone can join and vote for their favorites, and there will be an award or a prize for that winner as well. Super exciting. These young people are extraordinary in so many ways, and it's always a highlight of the week. So do look out for it. The prize ceremony is on the Tuesday late afternoon, in the presence of the Swedish Crown Princess, who's patron of the prize. So yeah, something to look forward to.
Sounds very exciting. And we've actually had one of the alumni on the workshop this year from Brazil, who was part of Stockholm Junior Water Prize in previous years. So if I'm press, if I'm a journalist and I would like to get hold of a Stockholm Junior Water Prize participant or Professor Oki, do I contact you, or how do I go about it?
Yeah, no, that would be a good start. I mean, obviously they will be hot in demand during the week, not just with media requests, but they have a tight schedule. So for that reason, we are assisting both the Stockholm Water Prize laureate, Professor Oki, and the Stockholm Junior Water Prize participants with booking interviews. So yes, please do get in touch with myself and my team. So if you happen to be on site, we are working, SIWI's comms team is working from the press room, but otherwise just pop me an email. We can set up online interviews as well.
And should that email be directed to press@siwi.org?
Yeah, or me directly. That's also fine.
Right.
Yeah, my contact details are on the website, and I'm sure they can be posted in the chat as well.
I'm sure. And if we look at the other way around, if I'm working for an organization that very many people do in our audience, working for an NGO, and I would like to get hold of the media, do we then contact you in the press room as well?
Yes, it depends a bit on what you want to do. We can make press releases available. We can do that in a digital press room in the sort of conference platform. So if you're registered for the conference, even if it's only for online participation, media will have access to a digital press room. And there is the physical press room as well. Now we try and avoid printed material at World Water Week for obvious reasons, but we are happy to coordinate that as well. You will also be able to contact, so if you know that there is a certain journalist that is at World Water Week, you can find them through the conference platform as well and send direct messages to them.
All right. And before I let the other participants in for their questions to you, what are you looking forward to the most?
I always find the diversity at World Water Week being what fascinates me and what I find so rewarding. It's really a conference where people come together from all walks of life, all parts of the world, all ages, etc. And I think that is, in my view, the great opportunity that we have with World Water Week, and also what potentially can help create change.
All right, thank you. Let's hope that we will be an agent for change then also this year. If you have any questions for Andreas, please write them in the chat. You can write them in English or in Spanish. If it's a question about participation or how to go about press media, just write them there. And in the meantime, while you might be typing, I would like to remind you of the 3 sessions that Water and Communications program will give during World Water Week. We have 3 discussions on center stage, and the first one is on August 26th at 11 o'clock European time, Stockholm European time. And it's called How to Make Communications Everyone's Business. The second one is on August 28th, and that one is 2:45 Stockholm time, Raising the Value of Water for the Future Generations. And there we will then continue the discussions we've had today about getting more young water professional into the sector. And then the last one, building a little bit on some of the previous workshop sessions that we've had this year. Science Communication and AI, Threats, Challenges and Opportunities. And that one is on August 29, also at 2:45. I would like to say thank you to Andrea and thank you to Andreas. Very confusing with 2 speakers with such similar names. It was a pleasure having you both on the program. I will also once again say thank you to Grundfos Foundation, who makes Water and Communications happen with their generous funding of the program. And if you are on site in Stockholm, please come around to the Grundfos Foundation's booth and say hello. After each session at the center stage, there will be a mingle in the Grundfos Foundation booth. That's all for me, and I might see you in Stockholm, or otherwise I'll see you again online. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a good time.